Aaron's obviously out with a wrist injury. It'll be evaluated in the morning. I'll give you guys more information there. Keyshawn Williams had a concussion. He's in the protocol.
Aaron Rodgers just gave us a major update on his wrist injury, and Steelers fans need to hear this. The 42-year-old quarterback is finally playing without protection on his injured wrist, and it's happening at the perfect time.
Yeah, it's still not 100%. I'm having battles with the training staff. Happy battles, not knockdown, drag-out battles, but trying to feel more normal.
Let me take you back to where this whole story began. It was November 16th, Week 11 against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Steelers were winning, but something bad happened right before halftime. Rodgers dropped back to pass on 2nd and goal. He threw the ball away to avoid a sack. Then two Bengals defenders, Chris Jenkins Jr. and TJ Slayton Jr., hit him hard. Rodgers fell to the ground and put his left hand down to break his fall. Right away, he grabbed his wrist, and his face showed he was in serious pain.
Let's call it 110 scrimmage yards in the first half for Bijan Robinson. And oh no, Aaron Rodgers holding at his left hand, left wrist area.
Rodgers talked about that moment later. He said,
I was in a lot of pain. We were late in the play clock, called timeout, came over. I felt like I could go one more play and then went in, got it checked out.
After halftime, Rodgers never came back to the game. The doctors looked at his wrist and found something really bad. He didn't just hurt his wrist a little bit, he actually had at least 3 fractures in his left wrist. That's 3 broken bones in 1 injury. The next week was tough for Pittsburgh. They had to play the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field without their starting quarterback. This game was extra special because Rodgers has always played great against the Bears. When he was with Green Bay, he beat Chicago over and over again. He even told Bears fans once that he owned them. His record as a visitor at Soldier Field was 12 wins and just 3 losses. This would have been his first start in Chicago since leaving the Packers after the 2022 season. But he couldn't play. Mason Rudolph started instead. Rudolph is an interesting player in Steelers history. Pittsburgh drafted him back in 2018. They thought he might be the next big quarterback after Ben Roethlisberger. He got his chance in 2019 when Big Ben got hurt. Rudolph won 5 games and lost 3 that year, but he also made mistakes and eventually lost his starting job. For years, he was just a backup. Last season with the Steelers, he saved their playoff hopes by winning the last 3 games. Then he left to play for Tennessee. This year, Pittsburgh brought him back to be Rodgers' backup. Against the Bears, Rudolph played okay, but not great. He completed 24 of 31 passes for 171 yards. He threw 1 touchdown, but also threw 1 interception and lost a fumble. The Steelers lost 31-28. Pittsburgh couldn't finish the game strong without Rodgers. Everyone wondered if having Rodgers would have made the difference. While his team was losing, Rodgers was working hard to get better. On Wednesday that week, he only did rehab, no practice at all. On Thursday and Friday, he was a limited participant. He wore some kind of brace or cast on his wrist. He could still use his hand and fingers. He could catch the ball from shotgun, but nobody knew if he would play the next week. Coach Mike Tomlin talked to reporters. He said, "He fought his tail off all week, but that's the prudent play for us to make as a collective." Tomlin also explained what they were looking for. Really, it's just about bracing it and securing it for his comfort and safety. Then it's about how functional he is. The team listed Rodgers as questionable on the injury report. But Aaron Rodgers is not someone who likes to sit out games. He's famous for playing through pain. Back in 2018, he played almost the whole season with a broken bone in his leg. In 2022, he played with a thumb fracture from Week 5 until the end of the season. His teammates saw how badly he wanted to play. They were really impressed with how tough he was being. The next week against Buffalo was huge. The Ravens had just lost on Thanksgiving. If Pittsburgh could beat the Bills, they would take the lead in their division. The Steelers and Bills would both be 7 wins and 5 losses. This game mattered for playoff seeding too. Pittsburgh had started the season 4 wins and 1 loss. Then they lost 4 of their next 6 games. They were tied with Baltimore at the top of the AFC North. They needed Rodgers. Rodgers came off the injury report. He practiced fully to end the week. Coach Tomlin said all systems were go. Rodgers was starting against Buffalo. This was potentially his last season in the NFL. He wasn't going to miss another chance to help his team win. Through his first 10 games with Pittsburgh, Rodgers threw for 1,969 yards with 19 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. His passer rating was 97.7, his highest since 2021. Mason Rudolph was okay, but he wasn't Aaron Rodgers. The The team needed their veteran leader on the field. Rodgers came back and played against the Bills. His first game back was shaky. He was still getting used to playing with the injury, but then something changed. Over the next 2 games, Rodgers looked like his old self. He completed 75.4% of his passes. He threw for 508 yards. He had 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. His passer rating was 116.0. He even ran for a touchdown. Then came Monday night against the Miami Dolphins. This was one of Rodgers' best games in a Pittsburgh uniform. He completed 23 of 27 passes. That's an 85.2% completion rate. He threw for 224 yards and 2 touchdowns. He led the Steelers to 4 straight touchdown drives. Pittsburgh won 28-15. It was a statement game. During that Dolphins game, Rodgers made NFL history. He now has the 3rd most games in NFL history with multiple passing touchdowns. Only Tom Brady and Drew Brees have more. Brady leads with 204 such games from his time with New England and Tampa Bay. The Steelers posted on social media, dishing out dimes. At 42 years old, Rodgers was still making history. Running back Kenneth Gainwell talked about playing with Rodgers. He said, "Aaron has been doing his thing all year. We know what it takes in December ball to get in the playoffs. You just go one game at a time. December football is when champions are made, and Rodgers is one of the best December players ever. His record in December and January regular season games is 52 wins and 21 losses. Those are his best winning percentages for any month. Since December started, the Steelers are 2-0. Now here's the big news everyone was waiting for. On Wednesday, December 17th, Rodgers talked to reporters. He gave his first detailed update on his wrist in weeks. The Steelers were getting ready to play the Detroit Lions. Both teams have 8 wins and 6 losses. This game could decide who makes the playoffs. Rodgers was honest about where he stands. He said,
Yeah, it's still not 100%. I'm having battles with the training staff, happy battles, not knockdown, drag-out battles, but trying to feel more normal.
he explained that he still feels pain with certain movements.
I'm still not without some pain with certain movements, but I'm trying to get the strength back in all those little muscles that have been unused for a number of weeks.
The really good news came next. Rodgers practiced on Wednesday without any support or wrap on his wrist. This was a huge step forward. For weeks, he had been wearing protection. Against the Dolphins, he only wore a pad. Before that, he wore a cast. Now he's practicing with nothing on his wrist. He can take snaps from under center now. This opens up the entire Steelers offense. They can run any play they want. Rodgers talked about the progress.
Last week was obviously just a little pad on top of it. Not sure what this week's going to be, but hopefully, at some point there's not going to be anything on my wrist.
He called it a work in progress. He's past worrying about safety. Now it's just about dealing with pain and getting stronger. Adam Thielen is a receiver who joined the Steelers 2 weeks ago. He's played in the NFL for 12 years. He quickly saw why Rodgers is special. Thielen said, "It's just been fun to see how he approaches the game, how he sees it, his process. He doesn't just show up on Sundays or Mondays and have success. You know that it takes more than just showing up for guys to have success, but it's fun to be around guys and to see their process and to see what it takes for them to have success." The Lions game on Sunday is massive. Both teams are fighting for their playoff lives. The game is at Ford Field in Detroit. It starts at 4:25 in the afternoon on CBS. Rodgers knows Ford Field well. He played there many times when he was with Green Bay. His record there as a starter is 8 wins and 5 losses. He lost his last 2 starts in Detroit, but he's won a lot more than he's lost.